Hi and welcome to the SMP video tutorial series. This is video 2 in the series, Scripting a Basic Survey, and in this video we will show you how to create a new survey, add some basic questions and answers, and then finally launch the survey to your respondents. Okay, so let's begin. First thing we want to do is create an actual survey, and we'll do that by clicking on the Create Survey button here. When I do that, a pop-up appears which enables me to name the survey and give some more detail about it. This is going to be a survey about browser usage, and so I will call it Browser Survey. Now the description will be the same. In this case I don't care what the description is. The commencement date, I click on that box there and I get a calendar, so I click on today's date, and the client will be us, and the job number SMP 002, Project Manager JFH. Now all those details have to be completed to create a new survey. The rest of the details here we'll go through a bit later. They outline various options that you can set within your survey. We'll go through them later. Click OK, and that will take you to the question editor. In this question editor you can see there are three panes. There's the left hand pane, center pane, and the right hand pane. In the left hand pane, this is where we begin to add and delete and or copy questions, and I do that by clicking on one of these three buttons up here. The center pane here will build the actual question as it will appear on the screen, and the right hand pane contains the parameters that will describe my question to the system. So let's start by creating some basic demographic questions. If I hit the plus button here, I can see that a question pop-ups in this tree diagram here called question 1, and I'll accept question 1. The type of question I want, I can select from this box here, and this time it's a single select question. That means that the respondent will only be able to select one answer. So I'm happy with that. I'll click single select, and you can see in the right hand pane now a set of parameters has popped up, and we use these parameters to tell the system about our question. The first thing we're keen on is the question name, and the default is question 1, which I'm quite happy with. I'll leave it at question 1, although I could change that if I wish. The question label though, I'll call that gender. Now that's the name of the question as it will appear in the data set when I extract the data. The actual question text, the question I want to ask, I put that in by clicking on this text box here, and up will pop a rich text editor. So I then type in my question, what is your gender? Now I can format this any way I like, so I can select text and bold it, I can italicize it, underline it, center it, change its size and colors, and so on and so forth. We'll go through more of those options later, but for the time being I'm willing to accept the overall format of the questionnaire. So I close that box now by clicking on the X, and you can see the question now begins to build in my center pane here. This is exactly how it will appear on the screen to my respondents. The next step is to add some answers. There are only two answers to what is your gender, and there are 4 ways of adding answers to your question, and they're outlined here in these 4 icons here. The first method is to add text answers, which is what we're going to do this time. You can also add images if you wish to use an image as your answer, which the respondent can click on. You can use rich text, which enables you to get the pop-up box and format your question or your answer any way you like. Or you can add the entire answer frame in one go if you wish. Now I'm going to use the simple method now, add text answer. So I click on that box, and up pops a text box that enables me to type in the answer. In this case I'll type in male for the first answer. The second one will be female. You can see the question is fully built now in the center, exactly as it'll appear on the screen to your respondents when you launch the survey. Let's create another question now. We'll call this one age. So I click on the plus button there. Again, it's a single select. There's only one possible answer to this, and the label will be age. Remember I put the text in, or the question text, by clicking on this text box here, and the question now is what is your age? And now I add some answers the same way I did before. Click on the add answer text. I'll say under 18. Add another one, 18 to 29. And the rest of the answers I'm going to use the answer frame box to add my answers, just to give you a quick look at how that works. I click on that box, a pop-up appears, and I add the rest of my answers by ensuring there are or is one line between each of the answers that I wish to include. I'll show you how you can cut and paste into this box later from a Word document if that's the way you've designed your original survey. I now click OK, and you can see all the answers now appear under 18, 18 to 29 and so forth. They also appear over here in the parameters box, so you can edit them or change them at any time. So let's add one more question, or a couple more questions at least, and this time I'm interested in a multi-select question type. So with this question type I can actually allow my respondent to select many answers, not just the one. Again, I'm happy with it being called question 3, but the label I want to be is browsers aware, which stands for browsers that the person is aware of. I add my question text again by clicking on that box. I ask the question, which of the following browsers are you aware of or heard of before today? Question appears there. Now I wish to add a lot of answers this time because the list is quite long. So what I'll do is I'll add this from a list that I have in Word of available browsers that I know are on the internet. So if I click on Word, you can now see that, or open the Word document where my browser study was and has been approved for creation. You can see that I have a list of mobile browsers here, or internet browsers here, and I wish to move those over to the actual survey. So what I do is I click on my Word document, I highlight all those answers, I hit Control C, I minimize Word and go back to the survey editor, hit on the Add Answer Frame button, and up pops the box, hit Control V, and all the answers come across in one go, hit OK, and now you can see that all my answers are into the system easily. You also note that I now have a box instead of a circle. Now this checkbox indicates that it's a multi-select answer and not just a single select, but I want to indicate to the respondent that you can select more than one this time, and so I want to put an instruction in there. That instruction is going to appear just under the question text here, and we call that instruction text. You do that by clicking on the instruction rich text box, and you then type in your instruction here. I'm going to type in instruction, please click on all the browsers that apply. Close the rich text box, and you can see that my instruction comes here in the default way, or the default formatting for the theme that I've selected. In this case it's a darkish grey there. Alright, I also want to include one other question, which is none, or to indicate that they may have heard of none of these. I click on the Add Text Answer box. I want to add just one answer, and there's my box down there. I can say none in there, and you can see that it grows here with the rest of my survey. I can select it, but at the moment I can select none as well as many of the other answers, and I don't really want that. If they've not heard of any of these, then I want none to cancel out all the other answers, and I do that by making that answer an exclusive answer, and I do that by selecting one of the other options along here, the answer parameters. In this case I'm going to choose or click on the exclusive box, and I'm going to make none an exclusive answer. As you can see, what happens when I do that is the none turns to a radio button rather than a checkbox, and so if a respondent checks on many of these things and then selects none, all the other answers disappear. It's just a feature of SMP, or one of the many features that we have. Now I want to ask the question, of all the browsers that these people are aware of, which would they say is their main brand, or the one that they use most of the time? And to do that, I add another question by clicking on the plus button, Again, it's given the answer name or the question 4, and I'm happy with that. It's a single select because there's only one possible answer to this. And I'm going to call this question main brand, and the question text is going to be of the brands that you are aware of, which would you say is your main brand? That is the one you use most of the time. Okay, now I want the answers for this question to be populated only by those browsers that they've previously nominated as being aware of. Now, this is a search technique we call piping, and in SMP we can pipe through those answers from previous questions by selecting the answers from the answer parameter drop down. Now, anytime you see one of these arrows here, it indicates that if you click on it, there will be a list of options that will drop down on the screen to choose from. And what I want to do is pipe from question 3 the question or the answers they chose there into this particular question. And to do this, I just simply nominate the piping from question. I click on that drop down. I can pipe the answers from any of these 3 questions, and it's question 3 that I want to get the answers from. And now I can't see them on the screen here because they haven't been selected by the respondent yet. So to see this question working, I actually need to save the survey and then press the test survey button here. This will build the survey on the screen for me. It'll run it in real time. So the first question I asked was, what is your gender? Press continue. What is your age? Press continue. And now, which of these particular browsers am I aware of? Well, I've heard of Chrome, Firefox, Internet Explorer, Netscape, Opera, Safari. Haven't heard of any of the others, so now I click continue. You can see the only answers that I can now select for main brand are those that I selected for brands that I was aware of. Now, this is called piping. And so I select the browser now that that I use most of the time, and that would be Firefox, and then press submit. And my question is now finished, and the default finish page comes up, or the default close page or exit link. Let's go back to our survey editor now, having seen how that works, and that is all the questions I'm going to ask for this survey. It's obviously a fairly small survey. One more thing I'll show you before we finish is how to quickly screen out survey respondents. We'll go back to our question age, and I'm not interested in people under 18. I want to screen them out of the survey, so I go back to my answer parameters here and I select the skipping function for each answer, and you can see a drop down will appear, and this allows me to skip to any of the questions in my survey if that particular answer is selected. Now, what I want to do for under 18s is actually screen them out, so I would select screen out, and what I'll do is save that again, press the test survey button, and show you how that screen out works. So again, on male, this time if the person selects under 18 and then when they select continue, it's going to throw them out of the survey. They don't qualify. It's called screening. That's an easy way of doing it. So I've saved my survey and I close the survey editor, and you can see my survey appears here, browser survey, and the options that I can use when it's in the design mode: edit survey, test mode, test survey, print survey. I can also copy, delete and extract by selecting these options here. Okay, that finishes our introductory video into setting up and scripting your first survey. Please check out the other videos in the series that cover how to use images, how to cut and paste more effectively, how to launch your surveys, and how to use the panel system to send out surveys to your panelists or lists that you have attained. Bye for now.